Hello everyone, my name is Katelan Pittick and I am a Miss World Australia national finalist, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Good afternoon, Australia. I'm going to assume it's mostly Australians tuning in. My special guest for today is Katelan Pittick, who is a Miss World Australia national finalist from Victoria. Katelan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. What's the weather like in sunny old Melbourne? Is it still as psychotic as I remember?
Sunny, I'm not so sure about that. It's quite cloudy today. And it's been very, very cold, unfortunately.
How cold is cold when it comes to Melbourne? I'm never sure, because I think you guys get colder than I'm in Sydney. I figure you guys get it worse than we do.
Well, it's cold enough to have an 11-kilo weighted blanket on my bed at the moment. So that speaks for itself. Probably around 14 average.
That's not
Some days,
too bad.
oh, pretty cold. Some days it's worse though with the breeze, but recently we've been having 16 degrees, I think. So it's actually getting better, surprisingly.
That's not too bad for
Yeah.
Melbourne. I remember Melbourne having some absolutely bitter winters, especially when the breeze blows and then it
Yes.
feels like it's gone below zero. Did you say you have an 11-kilogram weighted blanket?
Yes, I do.
Does that
Very
work? Because
heavy.
I've heard about these things and I've been looking at them. Because as I understand, they're used to help treat people with anxiety, or some people feel that they help get a better night's sleep. But I never tried it myself. I didn't realize they were 11 kilos. So how have you found that it's of help at all, the weighted blanket?
It's actually funny when I first got it, because there's different weights to them. So you can get 9 kilos, you can get 5, I believe, as well. And then I think the place that I got it from, 11 was the maximum. But I found that I get really cold during the night and I tend to move a lot. So I got the blanket so it stabilized me a little bit more, but it works really well until you get used to it.
What is it like at the beginning? I mean, if you have so it's 11 kilos in total, I'm imagining. It's not just 11
Yes.
kilos in one spot.
No,
Doesn't
yes.
it? Because the one thing that drives me crazy is when you go to a hotel and they insist on tucking all the sheets in so
Oh, I
that when you
hate that.
go in, you feel like you've been entombed alive. And I hate that. The first thing I have to do is kick out all the sheets.
Yes.
Doesn't it feel something like that? It's like a suffocating presence.
Well, I actually hate the tucked in sheets at hotels as well. I feel like I'm in a cocoon,
Yeah.
which at the start, yes, it did feel like that, to be quite honest, because it was so hard to just move anything. But then as you get used to it, now I don't even feel the difference until I take it off and I'm like, the Duna's so light without it. It's so weird.
So if you had to, would you be able to sleep with a normal unweighted blanket now, or would that feel very odd?
It does feel odd, but I do sleep without the weighted blanket during summer. So I adjust fairly quickly to them as well. But definitely would feel weird at the moment since having slept with it every night.
Wow, 11 kilos.
I
If
know,
you so if you
crazy.
had two of them on, then it'd be 22. You really won't be
You really
going
wouldn't be
anywhere.
locked in.
Anyway, that was a segue. But to begin with, why don't we get into your pageant? Why you got into pageantry? How did you get into pageantry to begin with?
Pageantry. So this one I actually never thought about. Pageantry has never really been on my radar of things to do. But I came across it one day and I kind of just looked into it a little bit. And I found that the reason why I went into Miss World Australia specifically is because of their Beauty with a Purpose program. I think it's a lot deeper than just a beauty pageant. There's a lot behind the scenes with intelligence, your humanitarian purposes and charitable work as well. And I kind of just wanted to at that point in time, I didn't feel like I had a purpose, and I hate not doing anything. Like, I feel like I need to constantly be doing something, especially to better the world. So when I got into Miss World and I kind of saw everything that goes on behind the scenes with the Beauty with a Purpose program, I think that's where it stemmed from. And it's been my favorite part of my journey so far as well.
So what have you been doing? So obviously you sent me through your bio and scoliosis, which is a curvature of the spine that actually my
Yes.
sister had as well.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure in terms of the severity, but severe enough to have a rod placed
Yes.
in her. So I know that's close to your heart, but how have you been incorporating that into your Miss World Australia journey? What sort of initiatives have you been bringing to the fore?
So with this scoliosis project that I've created called My Scoliosis, I aim to spread awareness on scoliosis specifically, because I feel like although it is a really common diagnosis, I don't think it's talked about enough. There needs to be more talk about it. Everyone needs to know the symptoms, especially because of how common it is in adolescence. A lot of people kind of miss it, and that's why there's so many severe cases, because it gets left untreated.
So how did you, and I can't quite remember how my sister was diagnosed, but what led to your diagnosis? Was it a gradual thing? Was it something that just popped up in a regular check with your GP, or was there other factors involved?
It was actually a really funny story. I was at a dance class at the time, and I didn't know, but my teacher at the time actually had scoliosis when she was younger. And we were in the middle of stretching, I believe, just like touching your toes, bending over, sort
Hmm.
of thing. And as she was walking past, making sure everyone's doing the exercise correctly, she came up and asked me, "How long have you had scoliosis, Caitlin?" And I was like, "What's that?" Because I
What's
was
that?
11 at the time. I've never heard of that before. So I was really confused. And she just said that she'd talked to my mum after the class. So she went out to the car with my mum and I. And then she asked the same question to my mum. And my mum
Mm.
looked at me and then looked at her and asked, "Is that a rash? What's that?" And that's why we find it so funny, because obviously it's nothing to do with that. It's the complete opposite, if anything. And that's kind of where it stemmed from. So we got it checked out at the local GP, I believe, that sent us to an orthopedic surgeon. And that's kind of where the journey started, with x-rays and MRIs.
Were you sort of too young at the time for that sort of? I mean, obviously, she thought that you knew what it was. You didn't. But were you too young at the time to sort of appreciate the impact of that sort of diagnosis, or
Oh,
did you
definitely. I think at that point in time, when you're so young and you don't really have any worries, I mean, your biggest
Mm,
worry is about what you're going to do on the playground at lunchtime. So when I found out, I was in quite shock, but I didn't fully understand it until surgery came around and we were getting prepared, and they were telling us all
right.
about the like the process of it, I guess. So no, I definitely didn't really understand it at all. I was quite scared, but I mean, we got through it, definitely. But I think it's hard for any child to really understand when they first find out, especially if it happens so abruptly as well.
Well, I think at that age, you still think you're invincible, don't you? I mean, we all
Yeah.
remember back to our teenage years when where we thought we could do anything and sort of get away with it, and those sorts of things are not supposed to happen to us. But how quickly did it sort of go from that initial? So you said your dance teacher gave you the diagnosis. How quickly then did it lead to or progress to surgery?
It happened pretty fast. So as soon as I got my x-rays, well, even my first appointment with the orthopedic surgeon, he was quite worried. So we went and got the x-rays, and as soon as we found out the degrees, like, it was already too late to get a back brace. It was already in the severe
Wow.
category. So
Right.
the back brace wouldn't have done anything. So it moved pretty fast because of the severity. They put me, I think surgery was roughly a year, if not less, after I'd found out the initial diagnosis. And I'm sure a lot of people know the wait list for surgeries can be quite long. So it was
Mm.
actually put to one of the start of the list as well, because of how severe it was. So it was quite a shock, definitely. There was no just gradually getting into it. It was straight into the deep end.
Can you give the people watching, obviously, as I said, my sister had scoliosis, so I have some idea as to what's involved. But can you give people, because I think you mentioned that is it the first day of National Scoliosis Awareness
Yes,
Month?
yes. That's why I'm wearing green. It's the
Right.
color of the ribbon. Yeah. So National
Right.
Scoliosis Awareness Month is the whole month of June, and the official day is on the 25th of June, from what I remember.
Right. Why don't we start with I mean, the first question I think that pops into many people's minds is that if you had curvature of the spine and it's severe, that you must have known about it. It's like many other diagnoses, whether it's physical, conditions or mental conditions. People go, "Oh, you must have been able to tell." But again, at the age of 11, you just don't know because you
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 don't.
lived with it. So how would you know differently?
Exactly.
But now that you are, let's say, on the other side, so to speak, or you've lived with the condition for a considerable period of time, were there any signs that you can look back on now and go, that might have been a clue that something wasn't quite right? Or did you just have no idea?
There was definitely one clue that I remember joking about at school. It was primary school I was in at the time, I believe year six. My right shoulder blade would poke out almost like a shark fin, is what I would call it in primary school. And everyone
Right.
thought it was so cool. They thought like my shoulder was just like, that's how it was meant to be. But obviously, that is a sign of scoliosis. But as like children at that age, you usually wear baggier t-shirts. You don't go
Yeah.
out in singlet straps. So you can't see the form of your back. And that's like why I think it's hard for parents to actually spot it unless they're actually looking for it.
So when you say your right shoulder, so right shoulder specifically, but not the left.
Not the left, just the right was kind of sticking out, which was a sign that my spine, because of the way it was curving, it was putting pressure on this side, causing it to poke out, and this one was still normal in a way, still not aligned, but you wouldn't be able to notice that side.
Did you have, I mean, at that age, it's normally when a lot of girls are having their growth spurt as well. So did you have any sort of growing pains that might have been caused by the scoliosis, or was it impossible to tell? Because again, at that age, you're growing so quickly, usually. It's hard to tell what's normal and what's not.
It definitely would be hard to tell. I do remember having um, growing pains. However, I grew really fast as a child. I was the tallest in my whole year level in year
Hmm.
six compared to literally everybody in the year level. I've always been like the tall child. So I grew pretty fast. So it would have been hard to tell whether it was scoliosis, especially at that time, because the signs just wouldn't have been there. It's hard to spot mild scoliosis because the symptoms aren't as severe with the curvature of your back. It's hard to notice. Even with my walking, actually, I remember my mum, I had a little bit of a funny walk, which I thought was normal because kids don't know any
Yeah.
different. But she'd constantly be like, why are you not walking straight? You look a bit funny with like you're slouching in sort of, and it's actually the
Mm.
body's way trying to compensate for the spine curvature. So that would have been a sign as well. But again, it's just hard to know. Kids sometimes they just walk the way they want to. But there were definitely little signs that when you piece together, it makes sense.
I mean, I guess hindsight is always 2020, and growing up as a young, tall girl, I've worked amongst young teenage girls as a tennis coach. The tall ones very often have a slouch anyway because it's
Mm,
somewhat. It's not like a guy when you're tall, at least in high school and school. That's bragging
yeah,
rights. Very often with girls, if you're tall, you stand out and you don't want to, so you kind of
100%.
have horrific posture. A lot of the tall girls had really, really bad posture, and you
Yeah.
sort of have to tell them, stand up tall, put your shoulders back constantly, sort of thing. But given that it is Awareness Month, can you trace for the people watching what the journey was like from when you got the diagnosis to surgery? And obviously, it's a major surgery. And then also what it was like afterwards, because the surgery is one thing, but then learning to, I don't know if rehab is the right
Mm.
word, but obviously after surgery, there's a recovery period. And that often can be the most difficult time because there were a lot of things. I don't know, in your case, for example, you mentioned dancing. Very often after a surgery like that, there are things that you used to be able to do that you're not able to do anymore, or not to the same extent. So what was the journey like from, okay, diagnosis to, okay, we need to have surgery, to now I need to learn to get back to some sense of normality?
Yes. So after being diagnosed and then getting told, okay, you're going into surgery, this is the date you were pushed forward, which I think happened a month or two prior. We were pushed, I think, in December, but they brought it forward because there must have been something happening on the wait list where they were like, okay, we're going to bring you forward. So I went into the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne. Very nervous. I was very scared. Again, I had no idea what scoliosis was. So as a child, I'm like trying to research everything on it, which is way more scary. I don't recommend doing that. So yeah, I was terrified, especially by the fact that on occasion it doesn't happen commonly, but there is a chance that you'll end up paraplegic if your spinal cord has had enough during the surgery, which obviously is terrifying for anybody.
Of course.
So that was probably my biggest worry going into it, and seeing how worried my mum was as well. Everyone was quite worried because we had no idea what scoliosis was, so it was really new in all of our lives. Then when I went to the hospital, the process started, getting checked in, and then I remember just falling straight asleep when they had the anesthesia put in. There was no time to even do that counting down thing that everyone likes to do, see how long they can last. So I fell straight asleep. The surgery was supposed to go for 6 hours. It ended up going for 8, which obviously I don't remember any of that. But what had happened, as my mum had told me, she actually got a phone call during the surgery at around the 8-hour mark. I was still asleep at the time. And the doctors and the surgeon had said that my legs weren't responding well. The spinal cord, the monitors were actually beeping tremendously, going off like something had gone wrong, and I wasn't responding to any sort of leg movement. Again, I wasn't completely awake, but usually you still have some sort of reflex if you get pinched or something like that. So obviously my mum was really, really stressed. I woke up very dizzy. I don't remember any of it. But when I did wake up, apparently I wouldn't stop moving my legs. So that was a relief for everybody. Apparently it looked like I was riding a bicycle. So, which was absolutely amazing. Apparently I was also singing in the ICU, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." Just hysterically screaming it. There's other people who just got out of surgery. I don't remember this, but apparently I'm singing. So
they must have put some good stuff into you for your surgery then. I wish they'd given me that stuff for my surgery.
Yeah, and I was thanking everybody, obviously. And after that, I got wheeled to my own room. And the first few days I don't really remember because of all the drugs you get put on for the surgery. I was on morphine, which is obviously really strong and needs to be taken in certain doses, which I had like a little button to push if I ever needed it, sort of thing. So I don't remember much of that. My eyes were quite dilated, so I actually couldn't see anything. My mum had bought these rainbow flowers and she's kind of putting them in my face saying, "Look, I bought you flowers." And I'm like, "Where?" I can't see. She's just like right in my face. But that disappeared after 2-3 days, and physio started, I believe, the day after. So that's where they started to, it was straight into it. That's where they started to kind of sit me upright so I could get used to it, which at the start, it felt quite heavy because I was so used to obviously not having 2 rods in my back. It felt quite heavy and I didn't really know how to balance. But then they got me up and then I started taking a few small steps while holding on to them, which went well. After that, I think once you get the hang of that, probably half an hour, you're used to it, like just the movement, not actually used to the rods yet. But I'd say the week itself, I was there for 7 days, was quite hard. Not being in your own bed, being in hospital, not being able to move, even being like lying in bed for so many hours on end was really, really hard. You get excruciating leg cramps. I've never felt any sort of pain like that before because I can't roll over. I was stuck in that position. So you'd have to kind of flip every now and again just to get the like change position and go on walks to get the legs moving again as well. Which was probably one of the hardest parts, I'd say. But then when you leave the hospital, it just felt like so much relief. I remember being so happy just in the car on the way home. However, it does hurt to stay sitting upright for an extended period of time at the start. It was really painful to just sit up in a chair. But obviously you get used to that. I went home still feeling a little hazy, getting used to it. I could move on my own at that point, so I could get up for walks. I could roll over in bed, do all of those kind of things. And after that, I think that's just where the journey kind of started, with learning your limitations and I guess just going on a lot of walks. I went on walks every single day. Mum dragged me out of bed. We need to go on a walk.
Yeah.
As a kid, it's the last thing you want to do. But I went to so many walks. My dad actually took me to the Mount Macedon. They've got this lookout there. So it's got a little bit of an incline, but that's good because you want your legs and muscles to kind of get used to it.
Right.
Which I found I got was out of breath quite fast, actually. When I first got out of surgery, going on walks, for some reason, I just had no energy, I guess, to go any further than just a street, but it increased over time, obviously.
Well, I mean, you were laid up in bed, unable to move for 7
It was a
days.
shock.
So.
I didn't think that I would lose all my energy like that. But then it got better. I went back to school, I think, in the 6-week mark, and I was supposed to go back in the 8-week mark. So I did go back earlier, which was good because of the progress. Hard at the start. My school was actually on a hill. At this point, I was in high school as well, year 7 in high school. So walking up and down stairs and on hills was quite hard at the start. So I think I was doing half days at that time. But other than that, I think the struggle, I guess you could say, is learning things you can and can't do and relearning things that you have done and you need to do, but in a different way. I remember in basketball, because I also play basketball, I went back, I think at 6 months, I believe. So you can go back to sports, I think limited sports, and it depends on the length of time with the sport itself as well. Football, I would assume, would be later on compared to basketball because of the sport itself. But one limitation I did learn in basketball, which was funny at the time, I was running after the ball, which was rolling on the floor. And I remember running, trying to go and like lean over to pick it up. But because you can't bend your back while running, especially like if you've got a straight back and you're running, I went head first into the floor. Head first. And I mean, I was laughing. It didn't hurt because I managed to put my arms out in time, but it was like in slow motion, head first. Ball is still rolling. So that was quite amusing. Everyone's asking if I'm all right, but it was a laugh in the end, which was funny. But so I learned that's what I can't do. Even tying shoes actually was quite difficult because you can't actually, unless you have really good flexibility, I suppose, which I don't. Even to bend over and tie up your shoes is hard. That you need to find other ways to do it. Like I cross my legs and then tie up my shoes because it kind of lifts them up a little bit. So yeah, there's definitely quite a few limitations, but you do find other ways around it, which is good. You just need to kind of get the hang of it, and it takes time.
It must be, I mean, you speak about it, and obviously, falling on your face in a basketball game is not ideal, but you laughed at yourself, which is something that I value as well. It's like if something bad happens, it's just best to laugh it off and
Yeah,
then keep
laugh it
going
off.
rather than making a huge song and dance about it. But I mean, because at that stage you said you had just gone into high school, and again, from my experience working with young teenage girls, um, that transition into high school can already be difficult.
Yes.
Your body is in a state of flux at that age, and here you are. You now have two rods, I think you said, in your
Yeah.
back. You are just learning sort of how to try and get back to normal. Walking is still a bit difficult, and you're still learning what you can and can't do and figuring your way around it. Now, a lot of girls at that age that I worked with, their world was over if they didn't get the latest iPhone. And here you are dealing with something that obviously major surgery, 8 hours, and you're not quite learning to walk again, but you're certainly learning to deal with normal everyday things like
Yeah.
tying up your shoelaces. But that doesn't, from what I'm seeing, that doesn't really seem to have bothered you. You seem to have just gotten on with it and done it anyway. So I'm just curious, what does that speak to in your character? Because it's very easy, especially in this day and age, for people to go, "Oh, feel sorry for me, my life is terrible." But you strike me as the opposite of that.
Definitely. I think the best way to get through a particular struggle, depending on what that might be, is to honestly laugh it off. I look funny picking things up, even at work. We'll have boxes on the floor, and obviously I don't pick things up like how any other person would. So I look funny, and people will be like, "Oh, like I'll get that for you." I'm like, "No, don't be silly." So I think just having a laugh and shaking it off is the best thing you can do, especially when that struggle that you had is now part of you and you live with that for the rest of your life. You have no other choice if you want to be happy, at least.
Just out of curiosity, if there was some way for an able-bodied person to know what it's like to live with two rods in their spine, particularly when it comes to picking something up. So is it a case of you're just not able to bend your back at all? Because I'm just, if people could have an actual way of knowing what it's like to be in your body, so to speak, I think it might give them a greater appreciation. So you said you look funny when you go to pick something up. So what's the procedure like just to, let's say, pick up a box off the floor?
My procedure itself, if a box is on the floor, it's all in the knees, but it's more like a squatting position, honestly, to be able to get down that low, because my back doesn't bend at all. It depends on the surgery itself, but because my rods are fused I can't remember the exact position, but the scar starts from roughly the bottom of my neck right down to
What I will
below my
do,
hips.
since we're talking about this, let me bring up your website, because then because there's actually a photo of your scar right front and center. So that's the scar that you're talking about there.
Yes. So it starts, you can roughly see it just kind of near the bottom of my neck, and that goes all the way down to below my hips. And that's why I have
Wow.
no
Okay.
movement. It depends on the length of the rods themselves. If you only have your lumbar fused, obviously you'll have movement up top.
Yeah.
But because of how severe my scoliosis was, I had to get it all fused, which obviously I've gotten used to now, and I'm permanently straight. Posture always. But yeah, other than that, I would say with the boxes, it's probably more all in the knees. Definitely in the knees. I don't have any movement in the back whatsoever. A lot of people think I do ballet, but really I just have good posture every day of my life.
I was going to say, if there's any sort of, silver lining to this, is that you must have very good posture, which would come in handy for something like, ballet, sure, but pageantry, because you always
Yes.
want to be bolt upright. Did you, just out of interest, did you find it difficult? How often were you walking in heels? Because when you're finding your balance, and obviously you were 12, 13 going through this, that's when a lot of girls start wearing heels. But with the inability to move your back and being tall, I assume. How tall are you? Because you're playing basketball and you said you were tall in year 6.
I was the tallest as a child. I'm actually average now, roughly, I would assume. I'm nearly 5'8". I think 5'7.5", roughly. give or take.
Right.
So probably on an average kind of scale of height. But with heels, because I was younger, starting off, they would be quite small. They'd be those block heels that are quite short. And then over age and time goes on, they went larger. I actually have no problem in heels whatsoever. But with the posture, I actually remember in high school when I first had my surgery done, obviously when, let's say, the whole year level is sitting down, crossing their legs, or sitting down listening for the assembly and whatnot. And
Yeah.
it's a common thing for children of those ages to kind of slouch when they're in that position. And
When
I'm
you
sitting
said
there.
that, I'm just thinking like I can sort of envision how to pick up a box whilst trying to keep my back flat because of that squat that you identified in the gym very often is like keep your back flat, keep your back flat. But sitting down, particularly cross-legged, whilst keeping my back completely straight, I almost feel like I'd be falling over backwards.
Yeah, I had to hold like my arms and my hands were holding onto
Your
my
legs.
legs just to kind of keep me there. Otherwise, I would fall back. So, it was a core workout, that's for sure. But yeah, quite difficult at the start. I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore.
That's so at this stage, is there anything that you are still having to work on in terms of core strength, balance, or have you sort of adapted to the rods completely and now you're living your best life, so to speak?
I would say probably adapted to most of it. I haven't had any problems recently because I've found new ways to do particular tasks. But in saying that, I'm sure there will be a task that will come along sometime in life that I haven't done before, and I kind of get a bit spooked by it because I haven't really had a chance to adapt to doing that particular task with my rods. But so far, I've had no problems now since adapting to everything and knowing my limitations as well. So I'm pretty content, I would say.
Well, that's a good place to be. I mean, going into Miss World Australia, going to the national finals, is there a particular message that you want to put across? Obviously, you're living with scoliosis. You've been through it. Obviously, it's not an easy thing to go through, major surgery, and then having to adjust, as we've said, to having actually, just looking at your scar, it's longer than my sister's. My sister's was probably about half the length of yours.
Oh, yeah.
You've had your entire spine, so to speak, so no movement whatsoever. But is there a particular message that you would want to impart to the girls watching or at the national finals itself?
I would say another part of my project at the moment not only is to spread awareness on scoliosis, but is also to create a support platform for others who are going through their journey to know that after you have surgery or if you get diagnosed with scoliosis, whether that is back brace treatment as well,
Hmm.
is that it's not the end of the world. And I know that as children, you think, what is this? This is like too much to handle. And you don't know what life is going to be like afterwards. And that's why I want everyone to know that you can still do everything that you had planned. You can still do it. You just need to adapt and you will get through it.
Can I just ask about the scar itself? Because just looking at it and reminded me, and obviously we're living in a day and age of social media and where everything is photoshopped to the point where you don't know what is real and what's not. And even like a slight blemish or a bit of acne, a lot of girls panic about it. You have a scar, so it's on your back. So it's not, let's say, immediately apparent, depending on what you're wearing, but it's still a significant scar. And I'm asking this because I remember when I was interviewing Tira Champa, and she
Yes.
just had an operation on her cancer. And so she's got a scar similar to yourself, not quite the same length, but on her abdomen, where because she's quite active, it's more visible. But a lot of girls, rightly or wrongly, are obsessed with the way they look. And having a scar like that, obviously, would not be ideal in their minds. So, was there any period of adjustment or difficulty for you accepting the fact that you now have the scar and that's not, let's say, maybe acceptable in today's social media where girls have to look perfect all the time?
I think when I first got out of surgery and I had the scar, it was definitely more prominent. It's completely healed now, so it's less noticeable. But in saying that, I don't think there was ever a moment where I hated my scar. I always loved it. I think it shows that you are a scoliosis survivor, because people pick it out. If they do know what scoliosis is, they're like, oh, do you have a spinal fusion? And then we kind of start bonding over it. It's a way, I guess, for the scoliosis community to spot each other if it is showing, which is really, really nice. But no, I don't think there's ever been a time where I thought, oh, I wish I didn't have that scar. Definitely not.
So then my next question has to be, where do you get such a grounded attitude from? Because
My
I
mom.
have to say, okay, so talk to me about the impact of your mum, because people like yourself at your age don't have that kind of grounded attitude, not in this day and age, unless there's been a very positive, calming and grounding influence on them from either a parent or a teacher, because otherwise I'd say it'd be panic stations trying to hide this scar all the time. So talk to me about the influence of your mum.
My mom has just always been so amazing and so supportive, and she's always been quite grounded. I think that's where I get a lot of my personality from as well. We're pretty much like sisters, honestly. But yeah, she's also she doesn't let anything get to her, if that's the way to put it. She has a really strong mindset. So when it comes to my surgery and my scar, I think she always reminded me that no matter like what you look like, it's always what's on the inside. The outside does not matter compared to who you are as a person, and that's the most important thing.
That's got to be a good message to take into a pageant.
Definitely.
What
it's an important message in life.
Definitely. What did your mum make of your decision to enter a pageant? Did she understand the world at all? Did she go, "What's a pageant?" What was her response?
I think I was quite unsure when I first looked into it, and I remember speaking to her about it, and she was quite confused as well, because we've never known anything about pageantry other than obviously the movies like Miss Congeniality and stuff like that, yeah. Which I'm sure everyone brings up. But then as I was going into more depth with it and we kind of read more about it, she was really supportive. She's always been supportive through my Miss World journey, especially with the Beauty with a Purpose aspect. I think that's, again, like our main, that's why we chose Miss World Australia. And I think that's why she's so supportive of it, because it's not just beauty. And it's kind of like what she had been saying to me as a child, that beauty is only skin deep.
So it's your first pageant.
Yes.
Your first pageant experience. What has been the most surprising aspect of your journey so far? Because obviously, as you mentioned, like the Miss Congeniality, people also talk about toddlers and tiaras, which, yes. Let's face it, don't give a particularly positive outlook on pageantry.
Not at all.
So what has been the most surprising aspect of your pageant journey so far?
I think the community of Miss World Australia. I think all of the girls that I've met have been so supportive. Even at state finals, I remember each and every one of us was supportive of each other. We're all in the back trying to help hype each other up and get each other excited, just to shake away the nerves, because we all want each other to do our best, obviously. So that was, I wouldn't say surprising, but when you think about pageantry and you've never done it before, you kind of get a little worried about how it's going to be behind the scenes. So it was definitely a lovely, lovely surprise. And all the girls are absolutely amazing. And I'm so grateful to have met them all. But then also fundraising for Variety the Children's Charity has been an amazing experience, especially with the volunteering aspect. I volunteered at 2 events, but my favorite was the children's Christmas party that Variety hosted. So all the children came together. It was kind of like a little festival in a way. They had rides and Santa and all these like gifts and stuff. It was so, so lovely. A little girl actually came up to me at the end of the day with a little note, and it had a drawing on it saying, "Thank you so much for today." It was such a heartwarming experience.
I haven't seen the video or photos of when you guys were announced as national finalists. What was your reaction? Are you a crier? Are you a keep it together type of person? What I'm just curious to know what your reaction was when you got the good news, so to speak.
I think it was actually funny when my name got called out. I didn't realize that it was my name, so I was kind of looking around, and then I was like, "Wait, that's me! I've got to get up there." So it was definitely such a big surprise. Obviously, I've worked really hard for it, and I've put a lot of effort into it. So I'm so grateful for this opportunity. But obviously, hearing your name get called out
Mm.
and knowing that you're a national finalist is just such an amazing experience, and I was so shocked. I did not cry, but if I were to actually win the title of Miss World Australia, I can't promise anything.
I guess we'll find out. Uh, can you give the people watching? Obviously, we've got a little bit of time in between now and the national finals. You've already outlined some of the charity work that you've done. Do you have any other plans along that vein in between now and national finals in terms of your advocacy or further work with charities?
Yes, so with Variety, the children's charity, I try and volunteer at as many events that I can, just to get more involved in a way, see how Variety runs in all of their events, especially. Fundraising wise, I actually am currently planning another fundraiser, hopefully bigger than my last one, which should be good. I'm going to open that up to the public to
Hmm.
come along, which should be really good. I'm trying to get a raffle sorted as well for the night. So hopefully all goes well. The details haven't been confirmed yet, but they will be in the next week, I would say.
Ooh, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Take out the national crown or otherwise, what's the biggest thing you're hoping to take from your Miss World Australia journey?
Probably the experience and also finding my purpose. I mean, the whole reason why I went into Miss World Australia was because I felt like I needed to give more to the world. And that's why I'm so grateful to have been given the opportunity to not only fundraise and volunteer for Variety, but also to start my own project on scoliosis awareness and support, because I think there's not a lot out there. There is, but the discussion still needs to be
Mm.
larger and spoken about a little more. So that is definitely what I would be really grateful to take away with me. No matter what happens, the outcome, I'll still continue to support Variety and continue my scoliosis project, because I think that's a really important aspect.
Now, for the people watching at home, if they don't know, Miss World Australia has several components. Probably got more components than most of the other pageants out there. So, my question for you is, in terms of pageant prep, how prepared are we in terms of wardrobe or different sections that we're going to do or not do? I don't think you really strike me as a completely just wing it type of person. So, I'm going
No.
to assume there is some degree of preparation that's gone into this and no shortage of thought. So, how's the pageant prep going at this stage?
Yes, good. I'm actually quite a neat freak with organization, I guess. I've got a whole diary dedicated to Miss World Australia and my plans and wardrobe. Literally everything goes into that diary. Uh, Wardrobe wise, I have officially selected an evening gown, which is good. It's currently being made and should be here within the next month, fingers crossed. Other than that, wardrobe wise, I do have items listed down for like dinners, and because nationals goes for like a week. So that's a
Yeah.
lot of outfits.
Yeah.
So I've got ideas for those, which I will start on soon. But with all the other components, I'd say my biggest focus at the moment is the beauty with a purpose aspect, just to get as much as I can done that I want to before that period of time, and then also sorting out the wardrobe in between those moments as well. And then obviously all of the Q&A preparations and the intro as well, and the walk. So
How
there's a lot to squeeze in.
well there is, but I mean, you chose this path. No one chose it
Yes.
for you. How much into the fashion scene are you? I don't know. A lot of people outside the pageant industry aren't aware of how many, for example, a week-long pageant, just how many outfits can go into 1 week. I mean, God forbid, Miss World internationally is probably one of the longest ones at
Oh,
like
yeah.
almost a month. And then if you had to travel overseas, you're having to not only pick your outfits, but pack all of them.
Mm.
But have you always been someone who's been really into fashion, or has this been more of a new experience for yourself?
I think I've always had a love for fashion on the side. Recently, it's definitely become more prominent because I think fashion talks and it expresses who you are as an individual, which is really good. Everyone can express themselves in different ways. I also currently work at Chic,
Hmm.
which is actually from where this dress is from. But a big component at Chic is styling the customers and knowing why they've come in, what they're looking for, and giving them options that make them feel great and look great as well. So that's why I think I've always, had a love for fashion, definitely.
Love for fashion or love for shoes? How are you with shoes?
Shoes, I think I've got more dresses than shoes, definitely.
Okay.
I need to stock up on some more shoes. So I'll be heading to Novo hopefully soon. um,
How many suitcases are you going to have to take to nationals?
that's the problem. I always take this one suitcase, which is fairly small compared to others that I've traveled with.
Yeah,
I'm not a really big packer, so I'm wondering if it's going to fit everything
I
in it.
don't think
Otherwise,
it will.
no, I might have to get a new one.
I think you
Especially with
might.
an evening gown, it'll probably take up the whole suitcase.
Yeah, I think you might need either a bigger suitcase or more of them from the sounds of it. Caitlin, just
Definitely.
before we go to the close, tell the people watching outside of pageant and work, what do you do? Like to relax, to de stress, or just hobbies in general?
Outside of work and Miss World, I love the ocean with all my heart. I actually wanted to become a marine biologist when I was younger. So it's forever been stuck with me. I recently went to Fiji and had the experience of scuba diving with bull sharks, which was
Oh,
really,
wow.
really fun. Yeah, that was super fun. I'm pretty much not scared of anything in the ocean other than one creature. One creature scares me. Everything else I'm fine with. And that is a jellyfish of all things, but a
Is it
particular one.
you mean the Irukandji?
Yeah, the box jellyfish.
Yeah.
It's clear. It's got really long tentacles and it's deadly. So it's got everything that you wouldn't want it to have. So that's probably the only thing. But other than that, I love the ocean. I love the creatures. To me, sharks are like sea puppies. So definitely that would be one of my hobbies on the side is just spending time in the ocean when I do get the chance. Um, Other than that, I'd probably say hanging out with friends as much as I can because life gets busy, and I think it's hard to make time to all
Mm.
collectively come together. But I'm really grateful for all my friends. They're really supportive.
You're definitely Australian through and through if you think of sharks as sea puppies. I don't think I've ever quite heard that term before, but I think a lot of overseas people, because I obviously interview a lot of people from overseas, they are very scared of the sharks. But I'm with you. I think the jellyfish is more the dangerous one
Yeah,
because you can't see it; it's just floating there. And if you
no.
dive, we were taking a first aid course. I don't know if you've had to do one as part of your diving, but they actually had a separate section on that one jellyfish because
Oh
apparently what
wow.
happens is if you dive through it, because they can be quite frequent, especially in the warmer waters up near the
Mm,
coast, like Gold Coast. And
yep.
there were these horrific stories of young people diving off a pier and going straight through all the tentacles. And
Oh
then the
no.
pain is so intense that your body just wants to shut down. So that we had a separate section on in our first aid course just about dealing with those stings. But they sound, I mean, I guess at least with a shark, you can see it. With a
Yeah.
jellyfish, you can't see it.
You don't see it coming.
No, so I'm with you on that one. But all right. Well, just before we do the final 10, anyone that you want to give a shout out to for supporting you?
Definitely my mum. I think we all know by now that I adore my mum. She's always been really supportive, so I thank her for everything she's been through with me on this Miss World journey the whole time. I would also like to give a shout out to her work colleague and my good friend Steve. which I believe might be watching. He's great. He actually came to Fiji with us and was the one who recommended the shark dive, which was absolutely amazing. And definitely a shout out to all my friends as well. I've got a little friend group and they're all really, really supportive. I saw them last night. So yeah, good shout out to them as well.
Are you going to have much of a contingent going up to the coast to cheer you on?
I'm not too sure yet. Hopefully, a lot of people have said they want to come along. So fingers crossed, I've got a whole cheer squad.
Can hope so. Okay. Well, let's go through these final 10. So the first question is, what is your favorite word?
Favorite word? I would probably say something along the lines of hope or joy. I like the word joy because it just makes me happy. I think even just visualizing what the word joy looks like is just a really big smile.
Second question, what is your least favorite word?
Fail. I think fail is my least favorite. I don't think you can fail at something if you give it your all. Whether you come out with the result that you wanted to or not, if you've given it your all, it's not a failure.
In life, what gets you excited? Or what turns you on?
Making others laugh. I think making others laugh gets me really excited because it just makes you laugh as well, especially when there's a whole group of you just laughing over something so really silly. I think, yeah, that would definitely get me excited.
Are you good at making other people laugh?
I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Laughing with you or laughing at you? Those are not the same things.
I don't mind if laughing with me, preferably if you're laughing at me. If it's funny, then I don't blame you.
Fair enough. Okay, well, that was what turns you on. Question 4, what turns you off?
Negativity and probably self-absorbed people. If they're not aware of things going on in the world and they're so self-absorbed that their problems are the biggest thing in the world, that would probably be it.
Number 5, what sound or noise do you love?
Oh, this is a hard one. Probably the sound of fire crackling. That's really weird, but I remember as a child, I used to go up to my grandparents' house and they would have these big bonfires, and it was just such a great little experience when I was a kid because all my cousins would be around. And yeah, definitely the sound of fire crackling. Very nostalgic.
I thought for sure you were going to say the sound of waves, given your love of the ocean. Happy to be surprised. Number 6, what sound or noise do you hate?
Oh gosh. I feel like there's so many noises that are annoying. For
Which
example,
one's the most annoying?
Oh, the sound of my alarm going off in the morning. Definitely that. It wakes you up so abruptly. It's not a good noise.
Oh, I'm just remembering back to your weighted blanket. So, because I have this thing, I don't know if anyone watching has or listening has the same thing, but if I set an alarm, I always wake up before it. So I've hardly ever been woken up by my alarm, but then I'm terrified that if I don't set the alarm that I won't wake up.
Yes.
So I don't actually know what it's like to be woken up by an alarm. But
it's
maybe
awful.
if I tried the weighted blanket, but then I won't try the weighted blanket
Don't
then.
do it.
What time is your alarm set for?
Depends on the day. Today, I have a problem. I love sleep way too much. So I think today it was set for 7 o'clock, which to me is too early, like 8 a.m. earliest usually. But 7 a.m. today because I had a few errands to run. But I just don't like getting woken up so, like, it kind of gives you a heart attack. That's why. If it's like a slow wake up, that's fine. I don't care what time of day it is. But the sound of alarm's not pleasing.
When I was younger, my mum would insist on coming in and waking me up for school. And I always told her I don't like being woken up suddenly like that. And then I think she learned her lesson one day when she woke me up by shaking me and I punched her in the face. It was just out of complete reflex. It wasn't intentional at all. And I felt terrible about it. But, just the reflex when you're woken up and you just see something right there. Anyway, so I do
Oh,
understand. I
gosh.
do empathize with your dislike of being woken up very suddenly. But yeah, maybe just leave that story there before I get into more trouble. Number 7, if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
I would probably say something fun like, I think it's called mimicry. There's a superpower called mimicry. It's kind of like what Spider-Man has. So you're still human, but you've got some sort of aspect of and trait of an animal. Obviously, his is an
Oh, okay.
insect. So
Yeah.
probably mimicry of maybe like a butterfly, so I could fly, or even a panther because they're really fast and they can sneak around if they want to. But I think that would be really cool to just whip out some sort of weird trait that no one knows you actually have.
Okay, fair enough. Question 8, what job other than your own would you most like to attempt?
I would say I am studying real estate at the moment. So that is my goal, is to become a real estate agent. However, if I could choose just something completely off the radar, I would say probably a fighter pilot in the Air Force. Very random, but I think that it's really different, and I don't think a lot of people obviously get to experience it. I also have watched Top Gun way too many times. But
Top Gun the original or
oh,
Top Gun the
both.
sequel? Both.
Both.
You're
They
not you're
come
not
in
old
duos.
enough. The Top Gun was the original was out before you were born, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it was.
So how did you come to watch it?
My mum loves Tom Cruise.
I was going, yeah, okay, I was gonna, as soon as I asked it, I knew it was a stupid question. It's like, of course, mom loves Tom Cruise. Yeah, everyone's mom loves Tom Cruise.
The
Oh
obvious
dear.
answer.
Yeah. Next question. What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
I would say probably working in a cemetery. I think it's just quite dark. So I don't think I'd be able, credit to anyone who is. I think it's just such a sad place and a sad environment, obviously, with everyone's loved ones. I don't think I'd be able to handle that with my empathetic emotions.
Yeah, there was someone, there was a pageant girl who wanted to become she might actually have become a mortician, or the
Oh,
one
wow.
that prepares bodies
Mm.
to be on display. If you have like an open air casket, for example,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
making them look presentable. And I mean, all respect, do whatever you
Yeah,
want to do, but
exactly. Yeah.
I that's just so
You definitely need
not
the right
something that I'd want
mindset.
to do. Yeah,
Definitely.
which I do not have. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
That's hard. I don't personally believe in God. However, if I am proven wrong and I do arrive there, I would love him to say that everything I accomplished here on earth was worth it, and that my purpose was fulfilled and impacted the lives of others. I think that would be really nice to know that I helped others and I, changed their life for the better.
Perfect. Random final question. When is the actual national final? Have the dates been announced yet?
The date actually hasn't been announced. We've been given a rough kind of idea, which is
Okay.
good. So at least we know what to aim for. They're saying sometime in August. However, because the nationals are usually held at Versace in the Gold Coast, and Versace is currently getting its names changed because they don't have ownership anymore. So we can't have it there. So we're not sure what state. Well, I'm not, at least. We haven't been told yet. But so we're not sure what state. I think they were saying either Sydney or Gold Coast. Not too sure about where it is yet, but they are aiming for August.
Well, I hope it's not in Melbourne, only because
Yes,
I don't want it to be freezing. You don't want to be, wearing whatever and then be freezing to death. But also, Miss Grand Australia moved to Melbourne, so I'm kind of hoping that we
Oh,
get something
wow.
back up Sydney
Yeah, something
ways,
up
or
north. Yeah.
and the Gold Coast, at least you can be guaranteed it's going to be warm
Yeah,
reasonably. So that's
definitely.
something to look forward to. You don't want
We're
to
gonna have
freeze.
goosebumps if it's in Melbourne.
Yeah, it's not. You'll need that fake tan, that's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, trust
But
me, I know.
But Caitlin, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure chatting and getting to know you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. It's been amazing. Thank you.
I'll keep you on the line for just a sec whilst I hang out with the audience. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open, so if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.